Welcome back to Podiatry Marketing. I'm your host, Jim McDannald. Joined as always by my talkative, colorful, trusty sidekick and co-host, Tyson Franklin. Tyson, how's it going today?
I'm fantastic today, Big Jim. Always good to be on here talking with you. If people could, I reckon sometimes as soon as we go, we should press record and go, this is just the ramblings of two podiatrists talking about stuff in the world of podiatry. And yeah, it could be entertaining.
Yeah, you definitely are expanding my vocabulary tonight. So there's just words I didn't know existed that probably not, for the PG or PG-13 audience, but there's
No,
definitely some good stuff.
let's put an E for an explicit on the podcast. So, but people that know me, they've probably heard me say what I've said to you a million times. I just love it when I say something to you and and all of a sudden this confused look comes over your face and I go, obviously that is an Australian term.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get on to today's topic, which is the benefits of using AI to create blogs and other content.
Nice.
AI is all the rage at the moment. And as we were discussing before we pressed record, some people do it badly. I mean, really badly. But we're not going to mention any names.
No, we won't talk about the AI slop connoisseurs that are out there that have, 4 toes on their AI images and that kind of stuff. So we're going to be talking about the good stuff, the helpful stuff that's going to help people in their practices here.
Yeah, well, what we're going to talk about is just that, okay, there's so many things AI can help you with. I use AI all the time. Love it. And so what I'm going to talk about is a few things where podiatrists can use it to create blogs and other content and just make their life easier in the podiatry clinic. So the first thing is AI helps you produce content consistently, even when you're busy. So most podiatrists, they know that they should be writing blogs, posting on social media, educating the community, but life and their clinic gets in the way. Whereas AI it's just a way that you can actually stay consistent without spending hours writing. And here is an example. You could easily go to your AI program, whichever one you use, and you could, now the prompt I'm about to use is a very basic prompt. So this is not one that I would say, use this one, but here's an example. Yeah, write a 600-word blog on heel pain aimed at active women over 40 in the Cairns area using an informal tone. Like I said, it's not a fantastic prompt. I would normally go into a lot more detail, but we don't have time for that. Now, AI will produce a solid first draft in a matter of seconds, which you can then use to work on. And the important point I said then is first draft. So you take that prompt, put it in, it will give you the information. You then look at it and then you need to start working on it and make it better. Don't just take what AI gives you and go, oh, there's my blog with emojis and all that, and just go and post that somewhere because it is so obvious sometimes when that is what someone has done.
No, it's super obvious and it's super clear when the model, whatever they're using, doesn't have enough proper context. I think one thing is that the step beyond that kind of initial just chat window with ChatGPT or Claude, whatever you're using, is to look at the projects or the folders where you can basically, you can upload or get a document of all the previous blogs you've written. So you have a general sense of what the style of your writing is. And then when you kind of, type in a great prompt like you did there, it has even more information to draw from. So you're writing even better articles. So that's a little bit more maybe of a pro tip, not a beginner tip, but I think you provided a great prompt there and you're going to get some good stuff. Like you said, then it's time to edit it. It's time to really it's not there. It's not ready for consumption yet.
And like I said, that was a very basic prompt. If I was doing that in reality, okay, you might say you want a 600-word blog, but you might want a 400-word blog. You might, someone that's got heel pain, it's a woman in her 40s, but may have only had heel pain for the last 2 weeks. So you can actually get you can get more detailed and more specific with exactly what you want, but it's still a first draft. And when you get that, you need to then go and look at it, which leads on to the second point. AI reduces blank page syndrome. I remember many years ago when I would have to write a blog article, you sit in front of the computer and you go, What am I going to write on? And you might have an idea, I'm going to write on this, but starting is always the hardest part. So AI can give you a very, very fast foundation, and then you tweak it with your expertise and your personality. So as an example, you can say, give me 10 blog titles about diabetic foot care that my patients will find interesting. It gives you the inspiration. You then pick one, and then you can start writing. So you could use AI as simple as that sometimes.
No, that's a great point. You can use that just to get some general, like you said, to clear up, basically take that blank page and put something on there. But you can also use AI as almost like someone that's interviewing you. So you can have it say like, I need to write 5 blog post articles in the next month. Like, you have my old blog posts, or you can see my website. Maybe ask me what you're the interviewer and you're trying to understand what I want to be an expert at, what I want to be seen in my community as the kind of go-to podiatrist for these certain topics. So please ask me questions about it. So it can kind of interview you, give you interview questions. You don't have to type it in. You can maybe use a voice to text transcriber. And then all of a sudden you give the AI, you answer those questions, and it gives you an output where it is like, you know, now you know what you should be writing about. What do you want to see, the patient you want to see more of? You're going to have topics on those subjects and great prompts like you've already written there.
Yeah, and I know because a lot of people are using programs now where the consultations are being recorded and it helps create their notes. You can even take some of that information and put that into AI and go, can you create me some blog articles or content around this particular conversation without, of course, using patients' names? But yeah, it's an easy thing to do, which leads on to the third one. AI helps you educate without overthinking. So a lot of podiatrists are great at speaking. So a patient can ask them a question and they can talk to them without any problems. When you ask them, okay, now write down what you just explained, it's like, duh. They're like Scooby-Doo. Huh? They're not sure what to actually write. So AI helps turn your everyday clinical conversations into a structured, clear content. So example would be you may have treated someone that had a plantar wart, and you can tell AI, hey, create a 150-word explanation of what causes plantar warts and how a podiatrist treats them, written for parents. So then AI will go, okay, you're not just to the person that's got the wart, this is for the parent who has the child who may have brought them in. But another thing you can do too, like you said about recording, even if you just on your phone did a voice note and recorded you talking about a few different topics or ideas, and then take those notes and just put that straight into AI and go, create me something from this. Like I said, podiatrists can talk about things, but writing is sometimes difficult.
And I think one of those writing aspects as well is that, like you said, like you point out, this is for the parents, right? But you can have AI give you outputs that are for certain like reading levels. So make this like an 8th grade or a 9th grade reading level. Don't make it a, university or a PhD or a podiatrist with, 3 years of
Yeah.
residency and fellowship training explanation, because sometimes we're in that world every day, or, calling things with the scientific names and procedures that wouldn't make sense to the common person. So AI can help kind of translate that from our medical jargon into something that, someone that, has a high school education or a college education could understand in a way that, if it's written for other podiatrists, there's no way they're going to understand what that is.
And sometimes too, when you mentioned before, but you can have conversations with whether it's ChatGTP or another AI program, and sometimes it'll ask you those questions. Who is the audience? Who are you targeting this at? And you can get a lot more specific, which I know it's a no-brainer. It's just simple to do. So the fourth thing is AI improves your SEO without needing a marketing degree. So you don't need to know all the fancy SEO terms. You can simply tell AI to target a particular audience or a location, or there's a particular goal that you want to achieve with it. So the example would be rewrite this blog so it ranks better for podiatrists with, oh, do that part again. So the example would be write this blog so it ranks better when people are searching, like say, for podiatrists with, bloody hell, what have I got? What have I written here? Shit. Sorry. Okay. So for example, you could ask AI, rewrite this blog so it ranks better. And you might be telling it you want it to rank better for people that are searching for a podiatrist and they've got, say, flat feet and they live in the Cairns area. And then it will start rewriting things to actually help you do that. Now, it doesn't mean it's always going to be perfect, but once again, it's a draft. You then work on it, or you can then take that. And if you are working with someone like yourself, Jim, who does this sort of thing, at least it's a starting point. It's not, you're not just turning up to Jim with a blank canvas and going, here, write this whole thing for me. You've got some information there already.
Absolutely. And like we talked about previously with the interviewing, you can create a separate like little module or, once you've done enough of these kind of interviews, you can create like, okay, give me 5 questions about who I'm trying to engage with this piece of content, right? So maybe it's like you said, like maybe gender, maybe age, maybe relationship to the patient. Those things can be asked. You can have the AI or the chat GPT ask you those questions every time you make a piece of content. So you feel like, or you can ask like, I made a piece of content, what's the next type of content I should be making? It'll give you some suggestions as well. So you're not having to like necessarily keep track of that stuff or, try to, figure that stuff out on your own. You're able to kind of build that into the way the piece is written by answering some simple questions.
Yeah. And it's one of these things like ultimately, brain fog just hit me then. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So the fifth point that I wanted to mention is AI gives you immediate repurposing options, sort of touching on what you just said then about targeting it like a different way. So you could upload a blog and then ask AI to turn it into 3 or 4 Facebook posts. It could be a patient-friendly email that you could take from it one thing. You could do a short video script for like Instagram. You could even say, hey, can you help me design a poster that's targeted towards athletes who are going to be in my waiting room? And that will help you design that. Or even use it as an infographic. And like you mentioned, Jim, that a lot of times when you're putting stuff into AI and you're working with it, sometimes you can just ask the prompt, have you got any other suggestions for me? And it'll just go, have you thought about doing this, 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 and this? And you go, no, I hadn't. That's great. Let's work on this one. And then that just leads on to more ideas. So suddenly one blog article, you could take it and it could create enough content in marketing for basically a whole week, just from one good article.
Yeah, you touch on something there that I do all the time. And, when I'm either creating a prompt or I'm trying to create some content, I always have the last sentence a lot of times that I write or I speak is, feel free to ask me additional clarifying questions. Because like if there's the AI doesn't know what's in our brains, right? So if there's something the way we want to position the content or they have questions, they can actually ask us back, which actually can help to make that piece more accurate, which can be a really, really helpful thing because I think, and then, obviously there's different ways when you write that blog article, like you said, you can create a blog post from it, obviously, and then, LinkedIn or Facebook or transcript. So you can do a short video. But there's just lots of different ways that AI helps you repurpose that blog writing. Sometimes, even with that blog, it almost seems like counterintuitive, and you and I do it kind of in the opposite direction. But you can take now with like tools like Descript, you can take your blog post and then have it create a video with B-roll and maybe, an AI like person speaking it. Maybe it's not, maybe something I would recommend for medical clinics. I
Yeah.
would usually recommend with medical clinics to like record a video of you talking. Obviously, you and I do this podcast, and we can kind of do the opposite direction where we take our spoken word and turning it into written things. But yeah, the AI opens up a lot of different aspects for changing those blog posts into a lot of different subsequent content.
Yeah, and that's good because that leads on to the next point number 6. And AI helps you communicate in your voice. There's a lot of podiatrists that I know, they worry that, oh, will it make them sound robotic in the way that they've written or the way they've created a script for a video. But if you feed it a few samples, you mentioned this before, some examples of what you've written in the past and how you like to write, it can start mimicking your tone more accurately. And it starts to understand what your style is, how you write. Like ChatGPT for me, it knows that I'm serious about what I do, but I like to also have a little bit of fun. So it tones things down a lot. Yeah, you ever notice that, Jim? And so, for example, I could write something and then I could put it back in there and say, can you rewrite this in a friendly, conversational Australian tone and avoid any like medical jargon? Now, I never do that anyway. So if I asked Chat to do that, it'd be going, well, who wrote this? Because I never put any jargon in there. I keep it pretty simple.
I think what you touch on there, and it kind of makes me think about what makes these, ChatGPT or Claude, what makes them super powerful for people that are, specialists or foot and ankle specialists or marketing specialists or business coaches. And number one, there's two things that come to mind. Number one is that all of us, people listen to this podcast and you and I, we have expertise. We spent years in podiatry school with patients, like kind of uh, you know, in the trenches doing the things, right? So we have that experience. Then also you and I, we have a point of view and beliefs in certain things. So when you have that and you can feed that like into the models through either your writing or your podcast, you have a tremendous amount of like information that you can give them. So when it puts stuff out, it's going to be more in your voice. And you're going to see, using it as a thinking partner, you're going to put words together you never really thought of before, whether it's in your marketing or the way you maybe communicate with patients or colleagues. It's going to help you kind of like basically put some connections together that seem kind of, like once you really use the tool in depth, these tools in depth, it can help augment your voice and help you clarify what you're thinking in your head and be able to communicate that better to the world.
One of the other things I was using it this morning that I went, this was really good that it pinpointed. I'd written an article and I'd written the whole thing from start to finish. And I hadn't given AI the prompt. So I'd written the whole article and then I put it into Chat and I said, can you take a look at this? Feel free to rewrite it or change the format around, but this is what I want done. Gave it to him. And pretty much the first prompt it came back to me and said, what? It rewrote the thing, but it gave me a little note at the end. Oh, there were a few areas there where I had repeated myself, where I talked about something. Sometimes you can write an article and then you do
Right.
tend to repeat yourself a couple of times. So it took out like the 1,000 words I had written. It had probably taken about 300 out, made it about 700 words, and it was better. It was better than what I had written by
Sure.
just reformatting things. And where I might write something a bit longer, it was being a little bit more concise and straight to the point. And I've gone, but I'm finding the more I use it, the more I do it, I'm actually becoming a better writer at creating content because I'm using it. It's helping me get better.
Along with the better kind of like the words and the paragraphs and those things, I think, especially in these days when people are busy, not everyone is going to like, if they look at a wall of text and there's not some headlines in the kind of, or intermediate sub headlines within the paragraphs, between the paragraphs, short paragraphs, like the way that the thing is written is super important these days too. Obviously the content is the content. But just making it a way that there's kind of breaks in the content. And I think AI can be a helpful way because I think when I'm writing, I'm just kind of like, I'm writing. And then like, oh, I'm done. Like I've got this great 1,000 words, but then it's just like 1,000 words of, letters that are the same font, same shape. And like, how long would I really expect someone to go, you know,
Read it.
from the beginning to the end and it not have a little break or to understand, okay, that section I care about, or I don't care about that section, letting kind of the reader have a little bit more freedom in the piece to get out of it what they want to. Cause if they get to like paragraph 2 and it's still feeling long and they're not really sure where it's going next, maybe they just want to like, go to the next thing.
Oh, I think there's nothing worse when you receive an email from somebody or it might be part of the newsletter and it's one paragraph after another one after another and there's no headings, there's no nothing. I
Right.
get bored because I'm thinking, am I supposed to read this whole thing? Whereas if it's got headings that AI will help you do, then at least you can skim. You can quickly
Yeah.
skim through the headings and get to the parts that are going to be the most interest. So, which leads on the seventh point, AI saves you time, which helps you help more people. So you're basically not replacing yourself. What you're replacing is the time it takes for you to create the actual content. So it just speeds everything up. The podiatrist will still provide the expertise. AI just accelerates the packaging of how it's actually delivered to the patients.
Yeah, the AI voice to text kind of dictation software I use now, and throwing that, throwing an email into Claude and then responding with my voice and having it write in my style after I've uploaded, tons of my written content, so it knows kind of what my voice is and what my personality is in a way. Obviously, I'm editing it and making sure that it's accurate, but the amount of time savings is phenomenal, and you just kind of fly through things where you just I find myself still to this day, like, looking over my wife whose desk is next to mine and saying, like, "I can't believe how fast I did that." Like, it was just like, it's it still boggles my mind that this is the way we can work now. Like, yeah, it's crazy.
It, I think back to when I first started podcasting, and I'd do my show notes, and I'd be listening to the podcast and I'd be typing notes at the same time, and listening to the podcast and taking notes, editing the podcast at the same time, listening to it and take. Oh my! It used to take me so long to do it. Now I wouldn't say it's a breeze, but it's a lot faster, much faster. I'm not spending so much time, which leads on to point number 8. AI helps you stand out against competitors who are not using AI. And the clinics that are producing most of the content are the clinics that get the most attention. So if you're putting stuff out there, you are going to get seen. And if your competitors aren't using AI yet, that's your advantage. Don't be one of them. The earlier you get into it, the better it's going to be, because it takes time. It's like anything else. It takes time to get better at it. So an example, you could easily ask AI, give me 12 monthly blog themes for a podiatry clinic focusing on sports injuries. Boom, there's your calendar for the year. And you've got all these ideas that you can then work on those and go back to AI and create, whether it's blogs or scripts for videos. Whereas the competitor down the road is like, oh no, I don't want to use AI. You're just going to win hands down, because you're going to be putting the information out there.
Absolutely, it's a great way to build that trust, and position yourself as an expert.
So I had some simple AI prompts that any podiatrist could use just to sort of get themselves started. So I've got a couple of written down here. So one is, write a 500-word blog on the causes of forefoot pain for office workers. You could go into a lot more detail, but at least that's a simple one to start with. Second one, turn this blog into a 1-minute video script for Instagram. Because a lot of people go, oh yeah, okay, I want to shoot a video for Instagram, but I'm not quite sure what to say. Well, get AI to help you do it. A third one is, give me 5 patient-friendly analogies that explain plantar fasciitis. So give me 5 analogies. I love analogies. And sometimes people can read information, but when you can relate it to something else in life, then it makes far more sense. Fourth one is, rewrite this blog, for example, using Australian spelling. The fourth one is, rewrite this using Australian spelling and a warm clinical tone. So you've got to make sure. That's one thing I pick up a lot of people that in Australia who I know are using AI, and they don't fix up the spelling, because it just naturally does everything the American way.
Like maybe a certain book in the future.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, Jim and I are writing a book together that will be out soon, and I'll allow American spelling in it. But I'm still going to throw in a couple of Australian terms that you probably will not understand. But we will go with American spelling. The only reason is because there's far more podiatrists in America than anywhere else. So to me, that just makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah. And if we put S's there instead of Z's, the Americans will go, what's this word? They won't understand what we're talking about. So another prompt you could do is create a checklist for new patients with ingrown toenails. And it could actually do a checklist for you. Or this one I like. You could take a research paper, take that whole research paper, dump it into AI and say, summarize this research paper so I can explain it in simple terms to my patients. Now, so there could be someone who spent the last 6 years of their life doing this PhD, and you can take that information, dump it in there, and dumb it down to something that is very simple for your patients to understand. And I think that is, if you've listened to the podcast this far, you've just got your money's worth just from that one. And another one here has got, create 3 Facebook posts encouraging people to book for an appointment. So you may have, I always say, whenever you're writing a blog article or doing anything, you've got to have a call to action. There's got to be a call to action at the end. So get AI to do the call to action for you. Just say, can you write a call to action after this blog article telling specific patients to do a specific thing? And AI will help you reword that. So if you're doing any sort of blogs or anything and there is no call to action, missed opportunity.
You got to give them an opportunity to interact with you for sure.
Because someone might read the whole article. If you don't tell them what to do next, and they go, oh, that was a good article. Now I'm going to go see the podiatrist down the road. No, you need to say, call the clinic or ring the clinic. But if you'd like more information, read this other article that you've written, or here's a list of videos that we've got that may help you with that particular problem. So you need to direct them what to do next. It just makes it easier for them. Everyone loves a little bit of direction.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that was all my notes. That's all my notes that I had written down for this episode. I'm just encouraging everyone to start using it. And if you need any assistance with any of this sort of stuff, you can reach out to Jim and myself. We're easy to find. What's our email address, Jim?
Well, if they go to Podiatry Marketing, podiatry.marketing, our website, there's a contact form where people can send us a message, and we'll definitely get back in touch with them.
Okay. And if somebody just wants to go to your particular website?
Yeah, they go to podiatrygrowth.com, or they can email me, jim@podiatrygrowth.com.
Yeah. And if they want to go to, my website, tysonfranklin.com, really easy to remember. And the email address is tf@tysonfranklin.com. There we go. Okay,
Thanks
Jim.
a lot for I appreciate it for all the information and the knowledge shared today.
I love this AI stuff. There's a diagram that I saw with some of my coaching clients. If anyone's been to any of my workshops, I show this 2 futures model. And it's just about a way that you can explain treatment to patients. It's a really cool diagram. But it's also useful for AI, where you've got 2 futures, where somebody who gets in, the earlier you can get into using or doing something, the better off you're going to be. And I think AI is one of those things. So that's it for me, Jim.
All right, Jason, we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, I look forward to it. See you later. Bye.
All right, bye now.